Welcome back to the Linux beginner series. In the previous video, we learned about Linux file permissions. But permissions are assigned to users and groups. So before we can fully understand permissions, we need to understand who these users and groups are. By the end of this video, we'll know what users are, what groups are, why Linux uses them, and how to see this information on your own system. Why do we need users? Imagine a family sharing one computer. The parents may have important financial documents, children may have school assignments, and everyone may have personal photos. Would you want everyone to modify or delete each other's file? Probably not. Linux solved this problem by creating separate user accounts. Every user has their own identity, files, and settings. This also makes Linux secure enough to be used by hundreds or even thousands of users on the same server. Not all users are equal. The root user is the administrator of the Linux system. Root can install software, delete system files, create users, and change almost anything. A normal user has limited permissions, which protects the operating system from accidental changes. As a real world example, think of root as the building manager who has keys to every room. Regular users only have keys to their own room. Every user account in Linux has four important pieces of information. Username. This is the name used to log in. Password. It is used to verify your identity. Home directory. This is your personal workspace. And user ID. Internally, Linux identifies user using numbers called user IDs or UIDs. As an example, even though we remember names like student or Dinesh, Linux actually works with numbers. What is a group? Now imagine a software development team that has members like Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Instead of giving permissions individually to Alice, Bob, and Charlie, Linux lets us create a group called developers. Now we can assign permissions once to the group, and everyone in the group gets the appropriate access. Therefore, group makes Linux much easier to manage, especially in organizations with hundreds of users. Every Linux user belongs to at least one group. The primary group is the group that the user, it's the user's main group. Secondary group. A user can also belong to additional groups depending on their responsibilities. For example, suppose Alice develops applications and also manages Docker containers. Now, Alice automatically gets permissions associated with all the groups when Alice's primary group is developer and secondary Docker and admin. Although we recognize users by names, Linux identifies them internally using numbers. Every user has a unique user ID known as UID. Every group has a unique group ID and it is known as GID. The command whoami shows the currently logged in user. Groups command shows which group the current user belongs to. For example, I'm logged in with a user account student and the student belongs to the groups student, ADM, users, LP admin, etc. And of ID command displays your user ID, group ID, and the group memberships. For example, the user ID of the student is 1000, the group ID of group student is 1000, the group ID of sudo is 27, the group ID of users is 100. As you know, PWD prints the present working directory, and you can see it slash home slash student and is the home directory of the present logged in user. This you remember from our previous lesson about file permission. Every user automatically has a home directory. In this screen, you can see the first column is the user and the second column is the group. Now we know exactly what those owners and group columns mean. This file contains information about user accounts, the slash etc slash password. Don't worry about understanding every file today. Just know that Linux store user information here. The /etc/group file contains information about the groups. So here are the important user commands that we used. Mi, id, and group. Mi is for current user, id is for user id, and group id, and groups for group ship. User information is stored in /etc/password and /etc/group. Now everything starts coming together. A group and others. Every file has an owner and a group. When someone tries to open or modify a file, Linux first checks who they are. If you are the owner, one set of permission applies. If you are in the file group, another set applies. Otherwise, Linux checks the permission for others. This is why understanding users and groups is essential before working with permissions. These are some common beginners' mistakes. Thinking that root is equal to administrator on Windows, but that's not exactly. First mistake is that for using the root account for everyday work, please avoid that. Mistake 2 is confusing usernames with groups. Next mistake is changing permissions without understanding the ownership. Let's quickly review what we learned. Linux supports multiple users. Every user has a unique identity. Groups simplify permissions management. Linux uses user IDs and group IDs internally. Commands like whoami, groups, and ID helps us explore this information. Now that we know who owns a file and how groups work, the next logical step is learning how to change ownership. The commands used to change ownership are chown and chgrp. In the next video, we will learn how to change the owner and group of files these commands. Now, let's connect everything we have learned so far. We installed Linux in a VirtualBox, explored the Linux file system, we learned basic Linux commands, we understood file permissions and Today we discovered who those permissions apply to, users and groups. In the next video, we will learn how to change file ownership using chown and chgrp, bringing all these concepts together. Thank you for watching. If you found this lesson helpful, please like the video and subscribe to follow the Complete Linux for Beginners series. And I will see you in the next lesson.